What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to IT Security Labs. And today I'm very excited to be attacking yet another machine. This is the fourth machine that I have created. I've created these machines after passing the OSCP with 100 points. I wanted to make sure that I can share my knowledge with you. So if you go for the OSCP or if you're interested in ethical hacking, you will definitely learn a lot from this live stream. So thank you for joining me tonight. We are going to be attacking this machine starting right now, but I really appreciate everybody who's here and who wants to learn. So if you're brand new, please remember to like and subscribe. We do this every Sunday at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, and our main goal is to really go through the hacking methodology, show you how to approach hacking. It's not as intimidating, it's not as bad, it's actually easier than you think. So hopefully you'll be able to see from my live stream here that being an ethical hacker doesn't have to be that foreign to you. It's just a few steps. If you put in the effort to learn, you will get there as well. So without wasting time, let's actually get started here. I deployed this machine. I shared it on our community channel community page. So if you want to try, download the machine from there and you can follow along with me. I deployed it in VirtualBox, and in my network, it's on 138. So make sure to check DHCP if you put this in your VirtualBox. So this way, you know what to expect. So the very first thing that we need to do when we're given a machine and you have an IP address, which is what happens on the OSCP, is we want to run scans. First thing that you need to do is maybe run an auto recon 192.168.38.138. I'm actually going to run auto recon today so I can show you what I actually used on the exam. So auto recon here is scanning our system. It will run a bunch of things. It's not just one service or something like that. But auto recon will run Nmap. It will also run a bunch of other tests and give us a folder with all the results. So if you're going for the OSCP, this is exactly how you would do it. You show up, they give you the IP addresses, you fire up auto recon, give it 10 to 15 minutes, and you should get some results from auto recon here. So if I go into the same directory, auto recon will create a results folder. And in here, it will have the IP address of the machine that you are attacking. Then inside, you have report, scans, loot. You want to go to scans. And in here, that's where you get your results. So auto recon is definitely a tool that I recommend. I used it for the OSCP. When it came to writing my report, I just came in here and I was able to provide like a full TCP, quick TCP. It does even UDP for you. That way you don't forget. OG auto recon. I haven't tried that one. Is that a forked version of auto recon? So if you're not familiar with auto recon, you definitely need to go to GitHub and read. It was by Tiberius. It's a really wonderful tool. So I'm going to show you the repo. All right, so this is the GitHub repository for auto recon. It was actually updated 4 days ago, so I haven't pulled this one. And please read through what this tool does and what its features are. This way, you know what it's doing. But of course, here are the install instructions and the usage. You can give it a target file or just multiple targets. I just use it the default way. It's a really wonderful tool. All right. So let's do this. You can do an ls to see what's happening here. Oh, okay. I'll definitely try OG recon next time. So let's check the quick TCP. We are treating this as if we're in the exam, right? We want to see if we can see things. Usually this will take about like 30 minutes, or 15 to 30 minutes, depending on what the scans are. Right now, it's not showing me anything yet, probably because it's still running in the background. So if I go back here, there it is. It's still running. So expect your auto recon to take a while. -SV. Let me do this one verbose, so at least we can see some results. All right, I'm just doing a quick Nmap scan right now while auto recon is doing the work. And I just ran the command to see service versions, but also made it verbose. I see port 21 is open. MySQL is open. 443.80, 445. So get familiar, get used to seeing a bunch of ports. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you for the boss for auto recon as well. Get used to seeing a ton of ports. If you're not comfortable seeing a lot of ports open, and especially if you are like a Vulnhub person or Hack the Box person, all of a sudden you show up for the OSCP, you're expecting 5 ports, 6 ports. They will bombard you with a ton of ports, and that can throw you off your game. So get familiar with seeing a lot of ports and just be calm about it. It's not the end of the world, right? We see FTP is open, MySQL is open. So right away, let's start with on 21. Then we'll go to 80 and so forth. FTP, you can always try anonymous even if it doesn't show you. Actually, let's just put the IP. 138. So this is now us interrogating the system, checking to make sure that it's working. Put anonymous. No password. We're in there. So you will, if you attended our last live stream last week, you will be familiar with this. I did this on purpose. So for those who will be practicing with this machine, I just dumped the directory or the directory structure for the public user to you. And this is an example of what a rabbit hole is, right? You are going to be required to go and find out if there's anything in these directories or if there's anything that you can use from here. It's just a random open port, doesn't lead anywhere. That's what a rabbit hole is. And the faster you can get yourself out of a rabbit hole, the better for you. So if you find yourself like looking at this, you will quickly realize, oh, this is the whole user's directory structure. This is the public user. And if as you start going through these, you realize, oh, there's nothing. An intelligent attacker will be like, okay, they gave me the public user, but this one is not a normal Windows directory. These ones are Windows directories that are normal, that come for the public user. FTP is not normal. So you should still be able to know, oh, what's normal and what's not normal. So before even dumping everything here, my methodology will be, let me go in that FTP. Why is it there, right? It's empty in this case, but if you were on a system, they probably have a reason why they put it there. This is just a rabbit hole. It won't lead you anywhere. But of course, you can check all these if you wanted to. This tells you, oh, there's Google Chrome. Maybe later you might find a vulnerability in a Google Chrome or passwords being dumped from there. But right now, we have nothing. So you have nothing here. I'm just going to check one more. A clean way to do this, which I always do, is if you see FTP and a bunch of directories, download them all recursively, dump them on your Kali, run a bash one-liner to recursively search through those files for passwords, like the word password, admin, anything that is the .conf, .back, random things like that. You can search recursively. If you are given an FTP full of crap, that's what you do. You download them all, you start searching everything recursively, and then see what you find. Search for the word password, configuration, .back, .zip, or something like that. So FTP is not going to lead us anywhere in this case. So since I did not give auto recon the verbose option, I'm just going to show you, because a lot of people were like, oh, what did you really do on the exam? So right now you see that auto recon does automatically run scans if it finds a service. So for example, here's WhatWeb. WhatWeb is going to try to find out what type of website this is. Since it found port 80, it also runs Nicto for us. So as you can imagine, our intrusion detection system, which we are using today, is actually going to be going crazy right now. Let's refresh. Because auto recon is being ran. I can imagine. Come on. Okay, let's just look at the alerts here. Okay, so it looks like I got signed out of my Security Onion. Right, there we go. This is just giving us a ton of alerts right now. Look at that. The scans from Nmap, we have 83,000 just events. This is because we're running a really, really noisy tool. So auto recon is not for pen testers going to client environment running. This is for the OSCP only. So just keep that one in mind. And all these alerts here are firing from our auto recon scan. That's interesting. Even you see these ones here. I bet you when it's finding the interrogation for, so this one, the SMB access here, this is probably a Enum for Linux running from auto recon. Right, we'll check those ones later, but I wanted to show you what auto recon does. Here is Nmap SMB. So it's actually firing SMB scripts against our target to make sure that everything works. Security Onion is running in a VM. It's in a virtual machine. All right, so it will look for it will look for share permissions and things like that. So we'll look at those results very soon. Let's do an ls. Look at that. Here's another thing that happens. Auto recon gives you all these files, and this is actually very, very close to what you will see, especially when you go for the OSCP. You fire up auto recon, you are given a lot of files. Not all these files are created equal, right? Some of these files are more interesting than others. For example, RDP, maybe the last file I'll look at, because unless if RDP is vulnerable or it needs to be brute forced, chances that RDP is going to let me in are very low. But of course, Nicto is going to be interesting. Robots is going to be interesting. WhatWeb, yes. SMB map was ran for us. I don't show you auto recon on this channel because it really takes away from your learning because it does everything for you. But when you know what you're doing, this tool can just help you with everything that you're doing. So let's look at SMB map here. If you are not familiar with reading these results here, things might not work well for you as well. So being comfortable looking at these is going to be helpful. So here's an admin, nothing. This is for any SMB files, of course, with anonymous read aloud. And it gives you V1. V1 is dangerous, but of course, for an example, like the OSCP, chances are you'll be exploiting SMB V1 with the common vulnerabilities that are out there are very low. But I mean, it could be out there. Just know that. All right, let's look at the TCP. I'll highlight a few files that you definitely will be relying on in here. SMB client, but the very first one is you want to look at the full scan once it's done. You really want that. I don't know if mine is done, but there we go. This is the default -SV -SC scan that we do by hand. I like to start from the top. And this is where I also say, if your brain gets easily intimidated by the amount of information, you need to just practice and get comfortable with ambiguity. So we looked at FTP, use wget or whatever commands to download everything recursively. There's nothing in there. I'll probably put something next time and show you so that we can search. But right now, there's nothing that will help me. We see port 80 is open. This FTP was emulated by FileZilla. Right away, we see that we have WordPress. This is a very old WordPress site. I also put that by default because what happens is you're attacking, you go and start looking at vulnerabilities that have something to do with that WordPress version. Chances are they don't work, but they are there. The fact that you're spending time digging into them is also that another definition of a rabbit hole. It looks like it might lead somewhere, so you spend time digging into it, and you realize maybe it doesn't work. So your goal here is go and look up WordPress, something like that, right? Go open your Google search, exploit. It's an old version of WordPress, of course. So it's going to show something, I hope. Here's PHP injection, maybe remote code execution. That looks interesting. I would be looking at anything that looks like a remote code execution for sure. But of course, I didn't put anything in this. If you find a vulnerability with this WordPress version on my machine that I made here, that was in an unintended way. I put an old version just to make sure that my exploit works, but also throw you off your game a little bit. But of course, with practice, you kind of know, like, chances that I'll be exploiting the whole WordPress site itself are low. There's low-hanging fruits you need to start looking at. But it's WordPress. We know that. Hey, Kev, IT support. It's good to see you, brother. Thanks for joining. And thanks for the sub. All right. I'm explaining these things because it makes a difference, especially for the OSCP, to be well-informed and make informed decisions. If you just run on anything that coughs vulnerability and you just go all the way in, you need to be reasonable, right? Chances that the whole WordPress will be vulnerable. Yes, it is, but in this case, it's not. But also, do what you normally do. Do your due diligence. Yes, I created this machine myself. I have created a total of 4 Windows virtual machines that are OSCP-like. I created them as soon as I got done with the OSCP. I wanted to see so many Windows machines that are for practice, that are not hack the box hard, but that also feel like the OSCP. And that's why I created this one. All right, so WordPress, very interesting. So what do we do when we see WordPress? We go through the WordPress enumeration methodology. So before we move on here, we go through WP scan, we go through Nikto, we do everything before we move on. And also, we also have a banner here, PrintPress for all your 3D printing needs. I had to put something in there. That's interesting. So we are not going to move on until we exhaust this, because the chances are 80 and 443 are the same. In fact, we can just open link. Let's see if we can get there. So how do we enumerate port 80? One of the things that you do is use Nikto. And let's go to if you are in an exam, you rely on the results that you already ran. So this one ran in Nikto. Let's see if you ran Nikto on port 80, because we want that. . Did it not see? Oh, here it is. So TCP 80, it ran Nikto for us. So you see why I don't like to run auto recon, because half of you probably have no idea what commands were ran to get Nikto working. That's why I skip it. But if you have been practicing for a while and you're getting ready for the OSCP and you know exactly that is Nikto minus H, this will be gold for you. You don't have to type. You don't have to do anything. It's just a matter of like, okay, I need Nikto results. It's like a shopping cart. Where can I get them? All right, so here's Nikto for port 80. Did Nikto find anything for me? Did find this PrintPress thing where it's going. If there are any vulnerabilities, Nikto will list them here. Yeah. All right. So Nikto did not help us, but Nikto highly encourage you. Run Nikto if you see a website, whether it's running on port 80 or Nikto will not only show you if there's easy vulnerabilities, but it's a very nice tool that will just let you know the status of the application. In this case, we don't have anything. So let's visit this website. All right. So it right away you notice that when you click on the link, it redirects you to PrintPress, then PrintPress. So you need to go to your Etsy host. Add the IP address, then add the domain names that show up. These ones you can get them from Nmap. Good practice. This should become part of your habit. You see a website that is a website that is a fully qualified domain name showing up. You go to your Etsy host, you add that. I added printpress.itsl, IT Security Lab, printpress.itsecurity.lab.local. Those are the three names that I saw. So you always want to do that, because sometimes administrators will only want to respond to the fully qualified domain name, but nothing else. So let's go to this site. I also visited the actual the actual site directly. Let me see if I can get there faster. You can also just go to the IP address and it should redirect you there. So right now it's kind of slow, probably because it's being bombarded by scans. But when you get on a website, what are the things that you're looking for? And I think we do this every week. You start reading. This is some default text that I pasted here. It will not help you. There's nothing in here other than PrintPress, IT Security Lab, LLC, a random name that I made up, and I found some text off the internet and I pasted here. This is not going to help you. But what you're looking for is, when you see something like this, is was it written by someone with a distinct name, like admin, like Kev, or Adam, whatever. You're looking at, especially if you're looking at a WordPress. It says powered by WordPress. You don't see domain names anywhere. You don't see anything interesting. I think there's a login page here. Try to see if you can access it. And you can try something like admin. Chances are, it will not work, but the last thing you want to do is move on without trying, right? Admin password. The obvious. Administrator password. Spend a couple minutes. This is due diligence. You're just checking, hey, can I get in? Okay, admin doesn't work. Admin password doesn't work. We're running WordPress. After this, you're like, okay, let's get in business here. Let's go to through WordPress enumeration. Depending on what you do and what your workflow is, let's see if I have. Here is a document that I really like. It's thorough. It shows you how to install WP Scan and how to, use it. This is for, enumerating WordPress. If you prefer the hacking article one here, WP Scan, WordPress pen testing framework. This right here will give you everything you need for WordPress as well. It will show you like, hey, here's the usage for WP Scan. Here's how you run WP Scan. And here's how you get things. Like, for example, the first thing that we want to do is just doing some enumeration. E flag is for enumeration, and AT returns all themes. So if you're after themes, this is what you do. What I like to do right away is I need to enumerate some users. So I'll search there. Can you tell me how I can enumerate users? Because I'm curious, do they have unique users? And someone is probably thinking, well, how would I know like how to enumerate WordPress? After practicing a little bit, you know, oh, there's WP Scan for WordPress, there's Joom Scan for Joomla, there's all kinds of scanners that people made for CMS and popular websites. PrintPress and 38.138. All right, so let's enumerate for some users here. We are hoping to see some users. Someone says, can you show me how you created it? Oh, it's easy. I just find vulnerable applications that are interesting to me. Then I put them on a Windows machine. Then I set it up a little bit so that it can be attacked and it's easier to attack. Like, you know, removing firewall, or at least sometimes leaving the firewall on but opening the proper ports and things like that. What happened here? You just didn't like there was no dash. Welcome back, Ali. This time, this is running on my lab network. This is not on Try Hack Me. You cannot take over this time. All right, so this is WP Scan trying to enumerate some users. We found one. We found admin. That's a default WordPress administrator account. So this one won't help us that much. Usually you want to see other people other than admin, but so far we have a user called admin. So we move on. This is part of your enumeration, right? You can enumerate all if you want. I think you can. There's an enumeration for all in a single command. I think it's just the -e. You can also do that, or if you don't put any flags, that's fine. -e enumeration and AT is for all themes. This one we enumerate plugins. -ap. Let's do an enumeration for plugins. Like I said, we're not moving on until we make sure that we know that this WordPress site doesn't have anything for us. And it says -e1, that will give us more. Yeah. There's a reason why I'm running this enumeration for plugins here. And this is going to tie to all the things that you hear from the OffSec forums, the try harder mentality, which frustrated the hell out of me when I was going for the OSCP. Here, actually, that's interesting. This one says it found a plugin, 3D Light. All right, so here is what we do. We find a plugin and it's in that location. We can open that link. Did we find another plugin? Okay, it's a blank page. WP Scan, if you had an API key, This will actually show you whether this plugin is vulnerable or not. But since we don't have an API key loaded here, I encourage you to just set up a free account and get an API key. But it looks like we do have a plugin here that was detected, and we don't move on. Oh, here is the latest version. It says it's up to date. Let's see. All right. So when you see a plugin, they're probably not vulnerable, or they are vulnerable. You grab the name. Actually, let's use search exploit first. My search exploit is not up to date, but we still do it. So search exploit is going to tell us whether there is a vulnerability that's known for whatever that is. We don't know anything about this. So no results. Just because there is no results here does not mean that you cannot still find vulnerabilities. That's another thing. Always double check. Search exploit, your Kali Linux might just be out of date. You still need to do this. Let's go here. Grab the name and plug it into Google and type the word exploit after that. And when I get results from Google, I'm looking for things that are interesting. I'm looking for remote code execution. I'm not looking for denial of service or anything funny like that. Because that's not interesting. Okay. So right away, actually, we see one here. Here's an exploit from exploit.db for that plugin. 1.9.1.4. So let's go back and see. First, once you find an exploit, make sure that it matches your version. 1.9.1.4. What did we find here? That is the latest version, yet we have a vulnerability. Okay, great. So we are not going to move on until we try this vulnerability. If it doesn't work, very quickly, we go. Thanks, KevTech, for joining. See you later. Thanks, man. So we move on, right? But for now, we have a file upload vulnerability. So what do? We try to first understand what are we talking about here. First, they have a homepage for the application. Let's find out what is this thing, how does it work. Let's educate ourselves very quickly here. Okay, it looks like a plugin for uploading things, 3D printing, and here's what it looks like. When we visited this on our site, we didn't see it though. So whatever that is doing, we haven't seen it yet. It was tested on Ubuntu. We are after a Windows machine, so there's a chance this exploit may not work. But we don't just move on because it says it was tested on Ubuntu, because as you see here, it might work for us. So let's start reading this code here quickly. It's printing a few things, and here's the usage. So we just need to say Python 3, save this exploit as exploit.py, put our target URL, including the /PrintPress, then a PHP file. And this is a good one. If we are putting a PHP file on Windows, do we use the Pentest Monkey PHP reverse shell? Would it work? If you have never tried it, you should try it. Try to put the Pentest Monkey. It's meant for Linux, so it will not work here. We need to find a Windows-specific PHP file to upload. And since it's a website, you're going to see very soon here, it's a very simple thing. And you do this, and all right, so it will print the banner, the action. It will use the app to actually upload our PHP shell. Then If the target is not vulnerable to tell us, or if you put it's checking the path for the file here, it will tell you that there is an invalid file, or it will check for you if the file has been uploaded, tell you that shell has been uploaded, and give you a path to where you uploaded the shell with your name of your file, or it will tell you that it failed. So this is a simple exploit. Nothing too bad here. This is a point and shoot 10-point machine on the OSCP. And the 10-point machine, it should take you 30 minutes or less. So because we have an exploit here, let's get this exploit. So what you can do is, I like to view raw, then just copy and save it. Or you can use curl to do this, or just raw. It doesn't matter what you do. All right. All right, so this is my working directory. You can, I'm going to save it as exploit1.py, because I think I already have an exploit.py, and it's the same exploit. Just wanted to show you that this is what I do. Or you can use curl and it will maintain the integrity. It doesn't matter, actually. You know what? Forget it. Let's use curl. Because why bother? Exploit1.py. All right. If we catch it, we see that it's the same exploit, right? Right there. This is now you weaponizing the attack now. You need to figure out, okay, I have a public exploit. How the hell do I use it? It says Python 3. Exploit1.py. Of course, it's going to do what we saw in the code. It's going to complain that, hey, you can't just run like that. All right. So it wants me to upload a shell.php to my website. So the command should be http 192.168.38.138 such PrintPress, then .shell.php. So my job now is to give it a PHP file that will be able to give me some access to the system. There's like all kinds of things you can do here. This one accepts PHP, so we will look for PHP. So the first thing that I would like to share with you, if you haven't done it, that will make your life easier, especially if you're just a beginner, is RevShells right here, revshells.com. I consider this the buffet for reverse shells. If you have no idea, like, oh, how do I generate a PHP reverse shell? What do I do? Just go to revshells.com. You can come here and say, okay, my operating system is Windows. This thing is asking me for a PHP, and here are my PHP options. PHP CMD. I prefer PHP CMD because this one is going to give me a PHP shell in the browser. Because you see it's HTML here. That means that this is just going to give us the most popular PHP capability to put commands in the browser. So I choose Windows. There's no need to fill in the information here because this does not try to run anything back to us. This one just gives us the ability to run reverse commands on the system because it will give us the get CMD. The reason why it matters here to choose Windows, because if you choose Linux, it's a whole different game. You need Windows specific PHP. So if you haven't and you're going for the OSCP, or you just want to learn how to attack Windows systems, if they have PHP, this is where you go. So what I'll do is I'll just copy this to clipboard, this whole PHP, come back here, and do a VI again. Then shell.php. Actually, that one is not going to work. I tried that one. That one didn't work for me right away. My mouse is stuck. Ali, what are you doing something? Okay, vi shell2.php. All right. Then if you insert in here, you can paste. Here's our shell. We quit. Since it's a PHP, we're going to use shell2 in this case. So let's go back to our command again for running the exploit. It said something like Python 3. Actually, it's right here. I'll just reuse this same exact command. This is the syntax for us in order for us to upload the shell. And if you ever see the ability to upload, it could be PHP, it could be ASPX, you get the same thing. It doesn't matter. Now, Ali, you were on try hack me last time. So we're going to put shell2, the one that we generated over there. So Python 3 exploit py, this should say shell2 has been uploaded. And if the exploit works, things will happen. So if you are in an exam and you're dealing with a website and the exploit keeps failing, what do? You fire up Burp Suite. You fire up Burp Suite, you intercept the request, then you try to encode things. You try different ways, maybe put this command within Burp instead of just directly from the exploit. So a lot of people will be like, well, I found an exploit, but nothing worked. Well, did you try to intercept the request and actually modify? Sometimes maybe you're being blocked, and you'll probably see more if you use Burp. So this is where the shell is right here. So this is the easiest exploit, like I said. And right there. Next one, ID. No, who am I? By the way, who am I also gets caught all the time. So right away, I can tell that I'm able to run commands on the system from here. So this might help you here. But of course, if this didn't work, you have other options that you can try to use, like this one here. I'll try that one. Maybe this one. So just because one didn't work doesn't mean you give up. Maybe I should have tried one of these. This one looks interesting. But we tried one. So your homework is next time if you are attacking the same machine, try a different one, and then you try to see. Since it's saying we can run commands here, sometimes you don't need this table there. You can just start doing things like dir, and here's my directory listing of where I am. So from here, if you find yourself having remote code execution on a system but can't get shell, and or you struggle from pivoting from here to actually getting a reverse shell back to you, you really need to practice that, because for the OSCP, they say that this is not enough. Even if you can read the flag from here, they will not consider this a full exploit until you actually get a reverse shell from the system. Right? So, says, by the way, I don't think fully weaponized exploit of exploit DB is not allowed. Yeah, I think you can use it, but of course they will not give you one that works right away unless if it's a 10-point machine. The 10-point machine, chances are the exploit is on exploit DB or somewhere. But the 25-point machine, don't think that it will be that easy. All right, so we know we can do things on the system. Let's just get our reverse shell here and move on. One of the things that you can do is just use netcat. I'll share with you a resource that will help you with multiple ways of getting from where you can run commands to actually just getting the terminal. So I like this one from Hectrix. For Windows, there are multiple ways. I can simply just get netcat to the system and then run this command. This is going to assume that I can run executables on the system as a user that I am right now. If I cannot run executables, I need to move on. Most of the time, a regular user will not be able to just run executables by default. But you can get netcat and just put in an IP address. This is as simple as it can be. Transfer the file, run the command from the same directory, and you're in. You get multiple ways here, depending on what you are going to be interacting with. If it's a newer version of Windows, PowerShell is, of course, what we like. At least I prefer PowerShell, mostly because I'm familiar with PowerShell. So here's all the different types of ways to use PowerShell. You might have to try several of these. But one thing that you want to make sure that you do with PowerShell is remember this bypass option for execution policy, because most of the time PowerShell will not let you run your own payloads with your if you just get it there. Or you can have a one-liner here. This is a nice one. Actually, I never tried this one. And this is like your shopping cart for trying to get a reverse shell on Windows. Chances are one of these will work. And if you want to generate your own payloads, use MS of Venom. And here is Hectrix did a good job. People ask me for my notes. Here are the notes that you should use. For MS of Venom, I actually used one of these to generate my payloads when I was generating a payload. But of course, before I even generate my own payload, I've shown you last time. Downloading netcat is noisy. Last time I showed you a trick with Nishang. I'm going to do it again because it works. And hopefully this will be the last time I use it. Next time I attack a Windows machine, I'll be going other ways. But you can do any of these here. Our Nishang falls on, they actually have it here. For PowerShells. There you go. Here is a GitHub repository for Nishang. And here are the commands that you run. The one that I like to run is this one here, because then I can just get a shell without doing things twice. And Defender doesn't detect the Nishang shell. Last time it actually deleted it for me. All right, so let's use the Nishang way to get our reverse shell from here. Then we can go and look at our noise. Okay, so I cloned the repo here. There's a shells directory here. Actually, they also have web shells here if you wanted to. It's capital S. All right, we'll do it again. It's the invoke PowerShell TCP. I'll share with you what's in there. This is where I think also having some form of strength helps. I like PowerShell. I learned PowerShell when I was a sysadmin. I did write some PowerShell scripts. If you look on my GitHub, I even have a detection PowerShell script. So I like PowerShell. Of course, that's going to be the first thing that I try before I try other funny business, because I can troubleshoot this. I know how it interacts with the system, and I'm pretty comfortable with that. So always, go with what you're comfortable with. If you like the command line, or if you just like using MS of Venom, you can do that as well. You can use MS of Venom to generate your own PowerShell reverse shell, to be honest, without using this one from Nisheng. But of course, I like this one because I can run it with a one-liner. So this is how we run this script here, by running invoke PowerShell TCP if we put this one there, and then on bind port of 444. So what I do is I copy this line here. Actually, it's the one down with an IP address, this one. I copy this, I paste it to the end of this file, all the way down here. I'll paste that line, then I'll put my IP address. So here's what it looks like. I named it shell.ps1. It's the same exact file. I just copied it. And you have seen this since last time too. PS1. So it's the same exact file, except I came down here and I put invoke PowerShell TCP reverse, then the IP address of my Kali Linux. This will be your Tano IP address. Then, of course, port 444. I hate port 444, but it's easy for me to search during detection. When you are attacking for improving grounds or for the OSCP, you need to use an open port. So a port that is open on the actual system, like 445. 445, if 445 is open, use 445 to catch your shell. If you try to use some random port like 444, you will not get a reverse shell, and you sit there wondering why it's not working. It was the Windows Defender is enabled, Windows Firewall, and the firewall is only allowing ports that are open as well. All right. So now that we know that we have shell1.ps1 here, what do we do? It's the same exact thing every time. We host this using Python 3. Or if you didn't want to do an HTTP server, you can do an FTP. This is a one-liner. It's straightforward. It works for me, so I'll do that. If you do this, it's also smart to use an open port that's open on the system. I don't know why that's such a game, but that's what happens. So now that we are hosting our shell, all we need to do is just go to our site and call for that shell. But let's start a listener here on 444. So if I don't want to be detected, what I'll do is I'll come here, I'll paste the command to get my shell back, and then I'll URL encode it in Burp Suite, and then that will probably not get caught if I'm lucky. If I just run it directly from here, it will get caught. So what is the command to do this? I shared this one liner with you last time as well. It's a PowerShell. Let me just find it here. I'd like to go through it one more time so that we actually know what we are looking at. So it's PowerShell exec bypass execution policy -C for the command, and this one is the IEX module for downloading the string. In this case, we're downloading the string from my machine, and since I'm hosting on port 80, I just do /shell.ps1. What this will do is it will download the PowerShell script from my machine. It will also execute it at the same time. That's why I like this one-liner here. And it works. So if things work, you always want to do them. If PowerShell execution is allowed on the system, that's what I try. So you can just come here and paste it and execute, or you can run it in the browser here. But since the one that I have here is execute, I'll just run it here. I should get a reverse shell, and it should also download from here. So you want to make sure that you check your HTTP server. When you're going through this, if it fails and it fails, you're like, what's happening? You check, did it download? Sometimes it will download but fail to execute, or it will download. So if it's downloading, you know for a fact you are running commands on the victim. You just need to tweak your payload or your commands in how you're running them. But if you're not even downloading, then you need to work on figuring out, are you doing the right thing or not? So keeping an eye on your HTTP server that's listening is really helpful for when it downloads. Or your your shell. So in this case, you see a 200. It shows me that we successfully ran and we downloaded there. So if I go to my netcat, I'm in on the system. Getting shell is the easiest thing you can do once you practice most of the time. I know a lot of people struggle by this simple step here. So that's why I'm showing you. Hopefully you practice. Getting shells, reverse shells in Windows is kind of tricky for most people compared to getting reverse shells in Linux. So you should do that. Thanks, Ali. All right, so now that we're in here, again, we can see that CDC. Of course, this is not what a person does when they first get there. They start saying, who am I, /o. If you see that you are in the system and you are, in this group here, then it's a done deal. It's a 10-point machine. You're in the built-in administrators. I mean, at that time, you successfully exploited a machine. So in my future machines, I'm going to start running this website with a restricted user or any services with restricted user so we can do privilege escalation. For me, privilege escalation is easy. I did not have a hard time with privilege escalation. Gaining initial access is by far the hardest thing. If you can break into a machine and you get a limited user, privilege escalation is almost a given. There's like 6 or 7 ways to try to check for privilege escalation in Windows. Linux is tricky, but in Windows, if you take like the Tiberius privilege escalation course, or if you take Heath Adams' course, they cover everything for privilege escalation. They are very easy. Gaining initial access is by far the hardest thing. Everybody who fails the OSCP, they usually say, hey, I got this machine, I failed on privilege escalation. I failed to even get a normal user. So biggest takeaway from this one, always enumerate. Someone will not have run the scan for plugins on that WordPress site. They would have run enumeration for users. They would have tried and say, well, there's nothing running there. They will not even have checked for the plugins or other checks for WordPress. So do things in a methodical way. Check your boxes. Once you know, I've checked everything I know, you can move on. But before that, then don't just bounce around. Make sure you exhaust your enumeration. Yeah. Thank you, NTC. So if you are not enumerating properly, that's when if you run to the OffSec forums and they say try harder, what they pretty much mean is you did not do all your enumeration. That's why I go for articles like this. I will literally go through this step by step. Okay, I enumerated everything, but can I also enumerate? Another way that I didn't show you is the aggressive scan. With WP scan, sometimes plugins don't show up until you run the aggressive scan. So if you enumerate and you're like, I did everything with WordPress, did you do the aggressive scan on everything too? Because the aggressive scan does actually look into other directories. And that's that try harder mentality that they try to instill in you. But really what they're saying is look around. Right, here's the fun part now. After all this attack, let's find out what we did. This is by far not the most intelligent way to attack things, right? We're just running tools left and right, including auto recon and all that stuff. So we generated 83,000 events these are all most likely tied to Nmap, or what is the other two? Nicto. It's either Nmap or Nicto, one of these two. So let's pick on one of those. The reason why I'm showing you this is so you understand how much noise these tools generate. We use them for CTF and practicing so that we get an understanding of what they do, and hopefully you can start hiding. So this one was WP scan. Oh, that's interesting. This was WP scan. And this is the behavior. This is the behavior of WP scan. If you're like curious, it goes just like GoBuster does and checks in the plugins directory to see if there's anything in there of interest. So that does not help. That's a lot of noise to go through to verify. Here's Nmap with 6,000. Nicto is probably somewhere here as well. But a lot of this noise is just us. This one is enumerating SMB. Let's drill down on that. Which tool was doing that? This is probably an Nmap script. Now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah, here when you're interrogating Nmap, SMB shares. See right there. This is from Nmap. Nmap trying to put a test file to see if we can write into the shares, probably. If you want to know more, like, okay, what detected this? How do you know? There's a rule right here that will show you exactly how things were done. So you can check to see, oh, here's a rule that fired. They also have a link to the rule sometimes, somewhere in here. But this is us checking using an Nmap script. I did not run an Nmap script. The auto recon 2 did that because that's how it's written. If you look into the source code for it. So all this is from our tools, and it could be interesting. One thing that I like to show is interacting with raw data. So let's go to is it Discover in Kibana. This I find to be more interesting than the predefined one, because if you get comfortable looking at events, then you won't freak out as much. So you see here, this is where we fired our auto recon. Wow, this was 39,000 events in this little section here. Probably some auto recon initially running. Then this was probably from WP scans and a bunch of other things that we did. But since I did it, I uploaded shell, was it shell 1 or shell.php? You can see, because we have Zik, which is tracking down all the connections. Then we have Suricata with some Suricata rules that are default. But this is interesting. This one actually found it, the shell that we uploaded. When I look in here, I'm curious, like, okay, who caught it and what did they find? In this case, it was a PHP file upload. Of course, you're uploading a file that is an extension of PHP. It's going to be detected. In this case, it's not even encoded. It's not protected. Our IDS is going to see it without even, because there's no SSL or anything like that. So it shows us the directory where the file went. Actually, no, this is when we got our reverse shell back. Yeah, this is when we got our reverse shell back and we ran our command. Of course, my lab is not real world. I mean, this is for practice purposes. Detection here is easier than what it will be when a real attacker is trying to get in there. But this is when we got our reverse shell by running our shell. And it saw our shell mostly because I ran the dir command somewhere. That is very interesting that it even has a screenshot of what I was able to see as an attacker. That to me is very fascinating. I like things like this. this is what makes me keep doing this stuff is because, man, detection is fun as well. Of course, we have some DNS log. Let me look for shell again. I wanted to see when we did the actual upload. What did I do? I probably changed my range. What's up, BT? It's good to see you, bro. All right, so always keep an eye on your range, right? I want to make sure that I'm looking in the right range here. Okay, I'm looking in the last hour. We should see it. The PHP. If you do this in an enterprise environment, these wild searches here, they might not bring you as much data because, I mean, it's too wide. You can also use the hunt interface within Security Onion here, which is actually something I need to get familiar with. Let's use last 2 hours. This is very interesting if you want to see quickly, like remember we did port 444. You can just do a quick view. I'm going to do 500. So here's destination port and all that stuff. You can do a quick view to see, oh, what's really happening here. Most of these are just nmap. You can group these by whatever you want. If you go down here, they give you some predefined things here. Group by rule name, group by severity or the module. I haven't played too much with this one, but actually group by destination port. Let's see what that one gives us. This is really, really good stuff. So you can see, oh, port 80 was the most attacked one. Then we have 5357. Then we have all these are the ports here. I have 10. Let me see if I can get more. This will show you this information in an interesting way. Let's hunt again. So here are all the ports that we have as destination ports that were seen in this event. What happened in my 444? Let's put 500. Maybe it's all the way somewhere down there. So if you're curious, like, okay, what did the attacker do? How many ports did they interact with in your whole environment? You can just get a quick view here. Let's see if we can view by source port. I chose source IP. So if you're curious, you can sort things by IP addresses just in case there's multiple attacks happening. Or you can also just view the alerts here. Another thing that I don't cover most of the time is you can escalate alerts and then go to the Hive for actual incident management. I don't do that because that's just too much for one live stream. But if you go to the Hive here, you can sign in, put comments, do your actual investigation, and note it, and even escalate to other users using the Hive. I just don't show that because it doesn't work for you for my live stream in the format here. So I escalated that. If you go to the Hive, you should see that as having been escalated. All right, let's search for something else. Port 4444. The real query should probably be like source.port, then 444, something like that, or destination.port 444. But since my little lab, I can just do 4444 and it should give me every instance where that port was seen. And I'm expecting a broken, and also, let's see the first one. Here is our reverse shell when we got our reverse shell. So that is interesting. again, we see the banner that the person saw. And the permissions that we were looking at when we were looking at who you are, like when I said, who am I? So it looks like the commands that you run after you get in are seen. The actual command is not showing here, but what you saw, what the attacker saw, is displayed here. Then click here to create a case in the Hive. And then, of course, it will take you to the Hive. And then you can create a case. And here's the description of what really happened. And this is what you will use for your for tracking this incident. So I'll just hit submit there. I need to sign in. I won't do that, but I wanted to show you our reverse shell and how we were able to find it. Let's see. That was shell 1, 444. What about shell.ps1? Our PowerShell script. What happened to it? So I see a GET request here right away. This was coming from our machine, so I know this is when we uploaded our PowerShell script from our HTTP server. So you can go and check as well to verify, did this succeed? I saw a 200 there. Of course, it succeeded. If you want this script here, you can also just, you can request PCAP, or if your company uses a proper SIEM solution, they'll probably have this file as part of their files collection. They'll probably give you this script so you can take a look at it. But we did a get on shell.ps1, and then it succeeded. What command did we run? It doesn't actually show. It just shows that we had a get. The reason why it fires is probably because it's a PowerShell script. You can look at the rule. So it's looking for PowerShell downloads. This was an HTTP request, of course. So you not only do you get caught putting your files to your system, to the victim, you get caught when you are moving files around. So what is the takeaway here? You can encode all this communication, right? Make sure that at least some of these simple rules like this that are looking for patterns don't see what they think they are looking at. One of the easiest things is, URL encoding using Burp or other tools. Even base64 encoding. Last time we did a base64 encoding and delivered a payload, it didn't get caught by some of these silly rules like the ones that we're looking at here. So just thinking about those ways, especially if you're doing engagements, can help. But also knowing that attackers don't necessarily just do what we're doing here. This is for our learning purposes. Real seasoned attackers will probably try to hide, knowing that silly rules that come preloaded with Security Onion will catch them right away. So that's what we had there. And of course, it got caught a few times. Shell.ps1 here. And the referrer was this. Oh, this one is a fun one. I like this one. I like this one a lot. Because for the referrer was this PHP uploading this PowerShell script. So you're now seeing an attacker, when they staged themselves to be able to run commands by uploading a PHP, and then they did a PowerShell script. So if you are doing an investigation, you now know you have two files that are interesting to you: a PHP file that was put on your system, and a PowerShell script. This one was not actually, this one was put on the system as well, the PowerShell script. So you're looking for two shell files that are named shell that resulted in your system being taken over. So this is really fun stuff. So if you like this stuff, make sure to hit the like button there and also the subscribe button, because someone told me that this channel is underrated, and I get excited about these things. I'm not too worried about subscribers. I like that people who join these things enjoy them, and I also enjoy this stuff. So subscribe so that YouTube can recommend this content to other people. And most of my content actually gets demonetized by YouTube. because I mentioned the word hack. They don't like that. They think that you're teaching people how to hack. So it's all about sharing this content with other people. Share my streams. Make sure other people know to join if you think that this is helpful. Otherwise, I'll just look at some of these comments that were put here. How much data per day you guys gather on 250 endpoints using Security Onion? I don't use Security Onion for work. I use Security Onion for practice here because it's easy to set up. There are better systems out there. Or if you use Security Onion in a production environment, you definitely need to tune this box here. There's a lot of tuning you need to do. Give it enough resources and make sure that you tune it. It might not perform as well because it's a default installation. So you need to make sure that you tune not only your hardware and but also like Suricata. You need to go in Suricata and make sure that it's updating the rules every night or something like that. Yes, Ali said we kind of switched to blue teaming a little bit. After the OSCP, we were like, oh, what do? We start detecting now. Yes, I like this methodology. Ali, we need to connect. I need to learn how to do that. All right. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments. Yes. TLS, SSL. This rule here would not have seen it if it was if everything was encrypted. That's the unfortunate part about that. But of course, there are these things called SSL decryptors. So if you are encoding using SSL, some companies decrypt the data, everything. They decrypt everything. So just because you are using SSL, especially, they will still be able to decrypt it if they want. All right, if you want to attack this machine, make sure to go to our YouTube channel in the community page. I have listed a link to that. This is the 4th Windows machine that I've created. These were all 10-point machines, or at least initial access to a 20-point machine. So think of them as 10-point machine, or this will be the first step in a 20-point machine when you go for the exam. But the techniques are all the same. Find a vulnerability, make sure that it works, know how to get reverse shells, practice how to move files between your computer. My method so far has only been showing you one, the simple HTTP. Sometimes it doesn't work. You need to use FTP. So I will shy away from some of these things that I've shown in 4 boxes. In future boxes, I'll show you different techniques because we need to diversify what we use. What ideas you use in real environment? Well, a lot of companies use custom or enterprise. I mean, Security Onion is still enterprise, but a lot of companies will make their own version of Security Onion, or they will use Splunk. Splunk is very common. Everybody likes Splunk, probably because it's easy to set up. Or they will use other systems that are more holistic. Security Onion is good, but there are easier systems to maintain out there, like Splunk. Oh yeah, Ali, I agree with you on this one. Downloading Netcat on the target is noisy, and if they have antivirus there, it will be removing your file. You put your Netcat file there, it will be removed. So I actually experienced that way. I put my Netcat gets removed, and I try to run the command afterwards, Netcat is gone. So my file share tells me the download worked. I try to get a reverse shell, Netcat is not there. That's classic antivirus removing your file right away. Even Windows Defender will do that. Oh, the live off lad. Yeah. I also heard this. This one is another PHP shell for Windows that I like to use. So think of the Pentest Monkey reverse shell, but for Windows. This is what works here. It will generate the payload for you. Or if you want, you can just generate your own PHP using MS or Venom or other tools. But these are some simple PHP files that you can use out there. And that's about it. All right. So if you missed the live, I encourage you to watch again. Otherwise, thank you very much for being here. Remember to like, subscribe, and tell your friends to join me every Sunday at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. If there's content you'd like us to cover here, please let us know in the comments or reach out to me directly. I'll be happy to hear what you are interested in. Otherwise, this is so much fun. I enjoy it, and I hope you'll continue to join me starting next week and in the years to come so that we can all become better at this. Thank you.